Greetings, YouTube. We're going to be doing this slightly less light today because the cat's here. I didn't want to move her. As it doesn't come as a shock to anybody, white supremacy is constantly in the news at the moment. Mostly because we have a president who's white supremacist, and it relies upon the language of white supremacy and his white supremacist base to support him and further his causes. Not to mention, help get him elected. And recently, someone came at me with a comment, which is now gone, and so is the commenter, about the peaceful protesters in Charlottesville. Now, I was not able to discern whether the person was actually a white supremacist and clever, or just an ignorant, absolutely, unbelievably ignorant human being. But regardless, the position that white supremacist protesters were at Charlottesville is just patently untrue. First of all, one of them murdered someone, so we know they weren't peaceful. But the idea that someone could come forward into the public sphere and say white supremacist propaganda, and that would be considered peaceful, is baffling. Because white supremacy in and of itself is an act of violence. You cannot put forth a white supremacist agenda, a white supremacist ideology, without using both the language and the actions of violence. Because there is no way to impose such an agenda, such an ideology on the world at large, unless you use violence. So the language itself is the instigation to the action. And let's not forget those quote-unquote peaceful folks in, men, I should say, those peaceful men in Charlottesville were chanting, "Jews will not replace us." There's no way to spin that one that it was a peaceful statement, that it was anything other than a vile bit of anti-Semitism and a tried and true trope for the white supremacists of the world. Because they always need someone to blame. Because they need someone to explain to their very tiny little minds, why is it that they aren't in control? They think they should be in control, but if they had any kind of mental health, they would have accepted the fact that they aren't, and that control is an illusion, and the concepts of pursuing control is just simply really mentally unhealthy. But they can't accept that they're not in control because they're poorly educated, or because the really rich folks have created a system where they're economically disadvantaged. And it's not the black people or the Jewish people that are doing this to them. It's the really rich white folks. But they don't want to accept that reality. They would rather blame someone else than accept that people of their own kind, and that's how they're viewing it, would do this to them. Whereas the really rich folks just see them as exploitable resources, or at best, tools to be used to exploit other people who they view as exploitable resources. There is no way to discuss the ideology and the rhetoric of the white supremacist and have it come off as anything other than an act of violence. Now, you can have a conversation about it like I am right now, but if you were putting forth that ideology, that's violence. Because there is no way to impose it upon the world without violence. You just can't do it. Because at the most basic level, it's about making sure that white people are in charge forever. About creating a white ethno-state, which is a nice way of saying, we're going to kill all the black people. So don't let them spin the language and make it sanitized, make it sound clean and politically advantageous. Don't make them let it sound, just having a conversation. That's one of their favorite phrases, too. We're just having a conversation. No, you're not. You're espousing a worldview that requires other people to die. So that's not just a conversation. That's an attempt to get a machine moving forward that will crush our fellow human beings and put you in charge. So there is no way for white supremacists to protest peacefully. The Klan doesn't get to pull that card out of the deck, nor does the alt-right or the neo-Nazis or any of the other white supremacist organizations. When people are marching through the streets chanting, "Jews will not replace us," while carrying burning torches, all dressed in a very similar manner, and one of their members murders someone, yeah, you don't get to spin that as peaceful. And nor do you get to throw the trite little concept of, well, Antifa is dangerous. Well, no. Antifa wouldn't exist if there hadn't been fascists marching in the streets. Remember that. People opposed to fascism will stay home if there are no fascists marching in the street. Because people opposed to fascism don't have a reason to counter-protest if there are no fascists holding torches, chanting anti-Semitic sayings, and murdering people in the streets. White supremacists are the danger. Their ideology is violence, and we shouldn't tolerate it.